31-6, with the star backs, King and Gasnier, scoring 2 tries each. Here is St George and Wests in the big one of 1961.
Bobby Bugden, the former international halfback of St George, placing the ball down on the halfway mark with referee Law alongside of him. Bugden moves into this one, and the big game's on at the Sydney Cricket Ground. The ball's fielded here downfield in the western suburbs, 25 yards mark. And from the ruck play here, referee Darcy Lawler puts down the first scrum, 20 yards out from the Magpies line. On the run to pick up the ball is the former rugby and international Arthur Summons to work the scrum. Down they go in a full-blooded effort from the front rowers, but the ball's heeled back here. And once again, Lawler asks for the ball to be placed in. In it goes. West win this one. Holman gets it out to Martin. Martin moving up the centre of the field is caught here and quickly brought down. With a good tackle there to mark him was Brian Clay. The ball's picked up by Portsmouth to Charlton from Chipper Martin. Martin wending in amongst the forwards of St George. There to bring him down was Brown. From the play the ball, Carson clears the ruck this time with a pass going out to Charlton. Charlton is tackled here by Provan. Play on the Magpies 25 yards mark as Charlton plays the ball back to hooker Kelly, who gets his support swing the pass to Hayes in the headgear. Hayes is brought down, quickly tackled, marked in the play the ball by Ryan, but Carson clears it this time with a pass to Kelvin O'Shea, who once again is tackled by Provan. But the referee Darcy Lawler has given a penalty here to Western Suburbs, offside in the ruck St George. Coming up to take this particular penalty kick is Calvin O'Shea, who kicks out towards the hillside of the Sydney Cricket Ground, going into touch, is signalled by the touch judge. And no doubt you can see the big crowd over there on the hillside as this scrum goes down once again. Bugden works the scrum. It's won by the Magpies. Holman gets his supportsman, the pass going nicely across field to Martin. Martin's hemmed in here and brought down, tackled by Gasnier with the help of Lumsden. Play just over the halfway mark as Martin plays the ball back this time. It's gone in amongst the centres where Brown of Western Suburbs picks up, plays the ball back once again to Charlton, who gives a spare pass nicely infield here to Summers. Summers moves beautifully downfield as temporarily pierced the St George defence, comes away from Graham, Jason behind it, quickly put on the ground here. The ball rolls loose, picked up by Provan. Provan brought on the ground here on the western side as Brown alongside of him picks up for St George. Kevin Brown plays this one back, and the ruck half position is Bluey Wilson, who clears it too nice with a pass to Clay. Clay looks for Lumsden, gives it to Lumsden. Lumsden's tackled by Kelvin O'Shea and thrown on the ground. Lumsden getting to his feet to play this one back as Mark Patch drove at the ball, but Provan clears it this time. But a penalty here to St George. Wilson, who has possession of the ball, as St George captain, gives the ball back in turn here to the fullback Brian Graham to come up and take this kick. Graham kicks for touch with a full-blooded effort too, as signalled by the touch judge, going into touch just this side of the halfway mark. One huge sea of faces over on the hillside as the scrum breaks up with St George winning it. It's gone out to Clay. Clay moves down towards the halfway mark, turns the ball beautifully in field to Graham, and the St George fullback is brought down. Playing the ball back here. Kevin Ryan, the dummy half, gets it to his supports there, fumbled by Provan. The ball's along the ground, and Western Suburbs appear to have possession just over the halfway mark. And the ruck here has gone to Mark Patch, who veers out to the hillside, tackled by Provan. Play just on the halfway mark as this time West have possession once again with the ball being made. Do the job here. The long pass going across field to Holman, who's brought down here from the play the ball. It's played back once again out to the hands of Kelvin O'Shea with St George forward standing up. Kelvin O'Shea puts his boot to the ball, goes over the head of King, into touch. Johnny King with the ball in possession at the moment as they scrum down. Over on the hillside, Bugden gets his pass away to Clay. Clay full of running, is tackled here. Tried to get the pass out, couldn't do so. It's on the ground and picked up by Raper. Raper tackled just over the halfway mark by Hayes. But referee Darcy Lawler has scrummed them down. Almost on the halfway mark is play with Bugden working the scrum. St George. Down they go. Both hookers struggling on the ground here. As you can see from here, and the whistle has gone. This time it's against the former international hooker Kelly, tracking with a loose arm. Now Brian Graham coming up to take this particular kick for St George. Brian Graham has been a great custodian for St George this season. Kicks for touch at the hillside of the Sydney Cricket Ground. And so now play will travel down 20 yards out from the Magpies line on the Randwick end. Down they go for the scrum with Arthur Summers, number 7, endeavouring to work this scrum. Plenty of weight in the scrums of St George. You can see Raper pushing his heart out there. And the ball's won by St George. It goes across field to Gasnier, who turned it in field to King, who came nicely in from the wing. Young King plays the ball back here. It's picked up by Raper to Clay. They made the fumble. The ball's picked up by O'Shea, who gets his pass to Patch. Patch appears to have knocked on. And the referee Lawler will scrum them up for the knock-on resulting from Patch. Arthur Summons, the halfback of Western Suburbs, picking up the ball. You see plenty of weight in that pack of O'Shea and Raper down his knees with O'Shea pushing just as hard too. In goes the ball. But penalised here as the second row play and a penalty to St George against the halfback Arthur Summers, placing the ball in the second row. Now Brian Graham coming up to take this particular penalty kick from the breach there. Brian Graham moves into this one. It's in the air, and look at it, a magnificent kick going right between the posts. Well, the big crowd here certainly stopped right till the end of this thrilling climax of the season to see who was going to take out the coveted premiership of 1961. The ball's in the air out towards the hillside of the Sydney Cricket Ground, and so play now has swung up to St George 25 yards mark. In goes the ball placed by Bugden, but it's gone across field to Holman, who gives it to Diamond. Diamond couldn't handle the ball. It's picked up by O'Shea, and Big O'Shea dropped the ball and more or less was ruled offside by the referee, Darcy Lawler. Louis Wilson with the ball in hand gives it back to Brian Graham. Graham coming up to the mark and drives it well downfield, getting great distances with his kicks today. The same Brian Graham kicked it into touch over on the halfway mark, more or less, on the hillside of the Sydney Cricket Ground. Low rain fell right throughout the afternoon. It was quite entertaining football for the big climax here. Here's Gasnier making the break, man. Brought in on the halfway mark, gets to his feet. But once again, play has moved in centre field on the western suburb side of halfway. St George up possession with a pass going out to Brian Clay, who draws the western suburbs defence, gives a perfect flick pass to Eddie Lumsden, the world's best winger, who goes helter-skelter down on the Randwick end of the Sydney Cricket Ground to put it down for the first St George try, and a mighty executed movement there by Brian Clay.
Yes, a great try indeed, made possible by the latent great Popper Clay. Here he is, drawing the western suburbs defence. Flick pass back inside to Eddie Lumsden. He finds all the gaps, and over goes Lumsden for the first St George try.
And Brian Graham moves in to take the conversion, going right between the posts to add the extras. A penalty here to Western Suburbs with Kelvin O'Shea taking this kick, kicking out towards the hillside of the Sydney Cricket Ground, but nicely taken here by Brian Graham, who stepped away from the attempt of tackle and shot the pass away to Bugden. Bugden gives it to Johnny King. King comes up towards the halfway mark, boots well downfield and chases the ball, which is bouncing away at random near Summons and also Parrish. But Parrish picks up, stepped away from King with a sidestepping run, still going goalwards. Out towards the hillside goes Parrish, chase him behind and eventually brought down here. And players mid the half and 25 yards mark on the Randwick end and the Western Suburbs territory. Carson has possession, clears the ruck this time. In the flash, it's got a Charlton, gives a one-handed pass this time to Hooker Kelly, who's moving out towards the hillside and as quickly is brought down. They're over on the hillside, one huge sea of faces here with a big crowd of 61,196 have stopped right to the end to see the climax of this very hard-fought grand final. Holman put on the ground on the western suburb 25 yards mark, but he has played the ball back here to Hayes, who gets his supports moving with a pass going across field. The durable Kelly. Kelly is brought down here, tackled by Clay and Wilson. But the ball's heeled back here once again. Tipping off the ground is cast in the hands of Charlton. Charlton gets out towards the hillside. Stepped out an attempt at tackle. Moved away from another one by Ryan. Was brought down here. Slipped the pass away, but it's on the ground. Picked up again by Charlton. It was offside here. From the scrum that goes down. Summons works the scrum. In goes the ball. And the nice scissors move have been put on here. There's Raper going nicely downfield. Shoots it away this time to Johnny King. And the St George young winger goes in to score. That very nice try.
A little bit of magic here from Bugden and also Raper. Now watch here as the ball is out to Bugden. A quick flick pass back to Raper. He sidesteps, makes valuable ground, and then sends a long floating pass out to Johnny King, and he makes sure his record of scoring a try in grand finals is intact.
Here we see the kick about to be taken by Brian Graham, and there she goes. Well, the big crowd certainly enjoyed that nice run by Johnny King. From the scrum that breaks up, here's Lumsden on the burst, taking play very close to the sideline, tackled by Barsley. Eddie Lumsden upon his feet, plays it back to the dummy half in Provan, who gets his supports moving, and the ball being given the full treatment here as Ryan once again to Provan, who serves a nice pass up to Raper. Raper going nicely through here. Couldn't get the pass out, but plays amongst the forwards this time as Provan picks up. Norm Provan, a great tower of strength, the veteran of many, most number of games of St George. Couldn't play that ball quite cleanly. And penalty here against Charlton, striking before the ball could be played. And Brian comes up on the ready, takes this kick, charging down after the ball with the St George forwards, but it's anybody's ball at the moment, as you can see from here, with the ball being tipped around from man to man. And eventually there was Gasnier in full speed, but was recalled for a forward pass. From the scrum it goes down. Bugden flicks it in, darts beyond, gets it away to Clay. From Clay taking it nice at this time as Gaz into Brown. Brown makes the break here. And the young Newcastle boy before coming to St George's at Newcastle has Lumsden alongside of him. Gives the pass to Lumsden. And there goes Lumsden. Corner post was knocked down in that incident, but the touch judge, as you see, didn't say he was out. The referee has given the try.
This try really demonstrates the brilliance of the St George backs. The ball is out to Brown. Now watch Brown. He does all the work. Makes a fine break. Looks for Lumsden. Over goes Lumsden for his second try.
Nice kick from behind by Brian Graham. Both flags are up. A magnificent effort all the way. And so that's the scoreboard that has told many, many tales at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Bugden works the scrum. Both hookers ready to strike. But it's picked up smartly by Bugden, who makes the break downfield. Turned it back outside to King. King's on his merry way. A nice clean cut of a youngster, young King, who showed great speed there. It was recalled. A penalty here. Moving in nicely. Graham, the ball's inside. It looks mighty in the air. And both flags are up, and so Brian Graham's trusty bird again puts 4 points on the board for St George. Well, one huge sea of faces. Still stopping the end to see the finale of this game at the moment. 17 St George and Western Suburbs 0. Now play on the halfway mark to kick off. Time is Holman, who boots it out towards the western side. Going high for the ball this time is Provan. Provan slips it away to Kevin Ryan, who turns the ball back in field and brought on the ground. From the play the ball. It's cleared from the ruck by Wilson, who gets his supports moving to the fast going to Kevin Brown, the big fellow going straight down the centre here. It's brought down, and St George still have possession, taking play down towards the western suburbs 25 yards mark. Louis Wilson clears the ruck this time, decides to go on his own and shoots it back here. Grabbing the ball high was Ryan, who gets his supports moving this time with a pass going to Raper. Raper in the headgear, veering out towards the western side of the cricket ground, is brought down on the halfway mark. He's marked by Patch, but Wilson clears the ruck this time with a pass to Provan. Provan's brought down on the halfway mark, and St George have possession. Wilson on the ready here to pick up from the ruck, does so too, goes around the blinds on his own, turns the ball back inside here to Kevin Ryan, who's bundled almost into touch. Plays dangerously close to the sideline. From the ruck play here, it's Provan who sends the long pass away here, and it's gone right across field to Brian Clay, who's travelling well downfield, is brought there on the ground by Brown. But the referee, Darcy Lawler, watching play close, is a penalty kick taken by Brian Graham, goes well downfield. Taken nice in the goal mouth area by Parrish, who slipped the pass back in field there to Martin. Martin's on his way on the western suburbs 25 yards mark, and still going goalward. Martin scored, brought on the ground here by Brown, marked by Brown on the play the ball. But the referee, Darcy Lawler, has blown the whistle as the players move off now after this most exciting game, with St George going further ahead. Well, the crowd over on the hillside there, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, stayed right till the end of the season, which rung the curtain down for season 1961. From the kickoff, about to take place, as it's driven well downfield here by Holman. Goes down the touch and goal area on the rain weekend of the Sydney Cricket Ground. Rain had started to fall during the afternoon's broadcast, which made the film a little bit murky, which is brought around by the rain that tumbled down. Now we see the ball eluding the grasp of Patch and eventually picked up by St George as they go down in the scrum. Getting the pass away was Holman to Summons, and running off him is Brown, who gets it across field, this time to Parrish, and Parrish to Martin. Martin's dragged on the ground there, taken. Ball and all, the good tackle by Brown to bring him down from the ruck play. It's gone across field to Summons, from Summons to Parrish. Parrish gives it to Kelvin O'Shea. And moving into Kelvin O'Shea was Bugden to bring him down on the halfway mark. O'Shea plays the ball back this time. It's gone to Charlton. And running off Charlton was Holman, who gave it a further afield to pass here to Martin. Martin's brought on the ground. Play on the halfway mark from the Sydney Cricket Ground, with Western Suburbs in possession. The ball's played back this time to Carson, to Charlton, who made the fumble, put it on the ground. Picking up behind him is Arthur Summons, who makes the break. Up towards the halfway mark. Summons is still going goalward. As Kelly on the outside, couldn't get the pass to Kelly, who couldn't pick up cleanly. And now St George have possession this time. It's gone across field nicely to King. King skirting the touchline, is brought down by Summons and stepped into touch. Now we see the Magpies in possession once again, with Kelvin O'Shea, their tall 6-footer, being brought on the ground. Number 10, he plays it back to Hayes. Hayes gets the long pass out here, and it's gone across field where Holman looked for support, gets it too, with the pass going across field here to Brown. Brown's brought on the ground, quickly tackled there. Marked by Provan as Brown, as he plays the ball back to Holman. Holman gets it away this time, out in the flash, picking up as Charlton. Charlton moving into Ryan, but Ryan was there to take Charlton, ball and all. Charlton plays it back this time to Hayes, who clears the ruck this time with a pass going out to Summons. Summons moves in, but a good cover there. But he sends the ball away to Carson. Carson travelling well downfield. Is quickly brought down there. But from the play the ball, the Magpies try and probe the St. George line with Summons getting his pass away to Holman. Out from Holman, it's gone to O'Shea. O'Shea tackled here. Lets the ball do the job with the pass going to Parish number 2, who's quickly brought on the ground by Kevin Brown. Play very close to the St. George line this time as Charlton clears the ruck with a pass going nicely to Patch. From Patch to Holman, who changes direction here, gives a flick pass to Hooker Kelly, who goes straight through on the ground and is tackled by Brown. Kelly marked by Wilson, but he plays the ball back this time. It goes under the legs of Charlton, picked up by O'Shea, who gives it to Hayes. Hayes is quickly tackled there, ball and all, thrown on the ground by Armstrong, the St. George hooker. From the play the ball this time, it's given to Patch, from Patch to Holman. Holman has Diamond alongside of him, decides to go himself, shoots the ball away this time, and it's gone across field, and once again Charlton is caught in possession, quickly tackled by Probyn. From the play the ball, Mark Patch picks up here and turns the ball back in amongst the forwards, where Kelly, the Western Suburbs hooker, is tackled by Clay. Play close from the St. George line here, with Western Suburbs trying to break through here to open up their score, but it's Mark Patch who turns it away this time to Charlton. Charlton sends it further afield this time, and picking up is Kelvin O'Shea. Kelvin O'Shea brought on the ground by Kevin Ryan. Big O'Shea getting to his feet, plays the ball back once again to Hayes. Hayes gives it a long pass here, which is eventually picked up on the rebound by Brown, the Western Suburbs centre three-quarter. But the referee, Darcy Lawler, scrums him up this time. Bugden works the scrum, darts behind the scrum, gets it away to Clay. Clay props nicely in field, goes up past the halfway mark, shoots it back inside to Gasnier. Gasnier is brought down there, quickly tackled by Diamond, but Gasnier upon his feet here, plays the ball back to Brown. From Brown, it's gone across field to Probyn. Probyn turns it to Ryan, and Ryan's thrown on the ground here, quickly tackled. Ryan Hills with the back of the boot this time. It's gone to Kevin Brown, out in a flash to Clay. They try to break his way through the wall of the defence of Western Suburbs. He loses the ball, picked up by O'Shea. O'Shea moving downfield here, chased by Probyn, decides to put his boot to the ball, and in doing so sends it back to Brian Graham, the St. George fullback, who takes the ball, comes up, slips, gets to his feet once again, steps away from O'Shea and caught by Diamond. Brian Graham getting to his feet. There's a scuffle here to see who has the ball, but the referee has given a penalty here to St. George against Diamond. From the scrum that breaks up, here's Raper trying to get his way through, and is brought down by a good tackle by Kelvin O'Shea. Raper plays the ball back here to the hands of Probyn. Probyn's on the ground. They scrum it up once again. The rain has fallen at the moment. You can see the umbrellas right throughout the ground as Martin makes the breakthrough downfield, kicks, sending Diamond in after the chase, but the ball eluded both of them. They scrum it up 5 yards from St. George line. West win this one with Summons going nicely through to be caught by the cover defence of St. George. Summons getting to his feet. Plays the ball back once again. It's Hayes who gives the pass away to Charlton. Charlton to Holman. Holman sends it away to Carson. Overhead to Diamond. Diamond has gone without the ball. And once again we see play on the halfway mark with the St. George moving the ball out to Lumsden. Look at Lumsden going for the line. Stepped out of a captive tackle. And Lumsden goes in to score his third try.
This would have to rank as one of the greatest all-time performances in a grand final. Look at Eddie Lumsden. The big boy, off he goes. Evades the tackle from the Western Suburbs winger and crashes over for try number 3.
Here we see Brian Graham attempting the conversion, and there she goes. Looks mighty close. And both flags are up. Well, that's the score. They scrum it up once again. Here's Holman getting his pass away to Summons. Summons trying to break his way through the tight St. George defence. But St. George standing right up upon Western Suburbs and giving nothing away. They're going on to be for their 6th consecutive premiership, which no doubt will constitute a world's record. Here we see St. George still moving the ball. Going downfield on the opposite side is Lumsden. Lumsden's almost through here, but is bundling a touch there. Tackled very smartly by Parry. St. George have possession here once again from the rocket. Brown, who gives it this time to Ryan. From Ryan to Bluey Wilson. And the St. George skipper brought on the ground here and quickly tackled. Wilson plays the ball back once again. In a flash, it's gone amongst the St. George forwards. With play on the outside, it's Hooker Armstrong going nicely through to be quickly upended. Players down the St. George 25 yards mark this time. And once again, it's Bluey Wilson coming to the picture, sending Clay on his way. Clay gives it across field this time at St. George's. David Brown moving nicely downfield. Stepped out of an attempt of tackle and was brought down by Parrish. Dangerously close to the sideline is Play. In the dying stages of this game, St. George trying to put more points upon the board. And racing through nicely is Gasnier. Gasnier is brought down from the line. They scrum it up once again. In goes the ball. Locked in the tunnel, but West have it. With Holman picking up at the base of the scrum on the hillside of the Sydney Cricket Ground. He plays the ball back here this time, right to the hands of Thatcher. Gets his supports moving with a pass going right amongst the three quarters where Brown gives it away here to Parrish. Parrish is put on the board of his back here. Barry's getting up, playing this ball back to the ruck half in Charlton. Charlton picks it up, gives a one-handed pass out here, and a flash it's picked up by Martin. Martin steps away from the attempted tackle, but it's caught by the St. George cover defence. Marked in the play, the ball here by Provan, but he plays the ball back this time. Carson switches direction with a pass to Holman. Holman's caught and trapped here, sends the ball back infield, and racing downfield is Barsley. Young Barsley moved nicely through there. Shoots the pass away to Salmon. Salmon has the rubber kick here along the ground and kicks it into no man's land, but they're coming down, picking up this time once again. This is George's full King. King getting to his feet, plays the ball back to Ryan. Ryan to Clay. Clay has to pull the pass going out to Brian Graham, who moves out towards the hillside of the creek ground, gives a floating pass to Lumsden, who pulled it down nicely, chased from behind by Patch, and eventually tripped down there, but gets up to regain his balance, steps away from O'Shea, and the touch judge alongside of him. Lumsden puts his boot to the ball. It's a keen chase down the touch and goal area, and it's mighty close. A doubtful effort here, this conversion, but the referee, Darcy Lawler, has ruled no try. Not a great deal of time left for play as Parrish takes the penalty kick here, driving it well downfield. Brian Graham going across field at leisure. But it's picked up over on the far side, and St. George have possession. The crowd are standing right to the end of this game with umbrellas up. It's been a murky day, the rain tumbling down from time to time, but the game's all over, bar the shouting. And so St. George today have gone on to their sixth consecutive Rugby League Premiership, and the runners-up are Western Suburbs. The players are being congratulated after this hard-fought game, which was never in doubt right from the commencement, although Western Suburbs tried very hard. The Premiers were up.
Yes, victory to St. George convincingly with a 22-0 shutout with a giant winger, Eddie Lumsden, now an Australian selector, scoring a hat-trick of tries, while that flying flanker and one of the best finishers of the modern era, Johnny King, also grabbing a three-pointer. Reliable fullback, Brian Graham, kicked 5 goals for the Saints. Now to 1962, and again Western Suburbs emerge as the threat to St. George. Let's now see if they can narrow the gap from 1961.
Great carnival mood as the big crowd here of 41,184. See number 21 Evans working the scrum for St. George. Down they go. Kelly having trouble setting himself in the scrum. Kelly's out now as number 21 about to put the ball in. Both hookers ready to strike. In goes the ball, and it's won by St. George, although 5 minutes has gone by of the first half. A penalty to St. George once again. McDonald 15 taking this penalty kick. A casual kicker, a cool customer too is young McDonald as he moves into this one, and the ball's in flight. There she goes, a rangefinder right between the posts, and St. George 2 were leading Western Suburbs 0 at this stage of the game. Section of the crowd there of 41,000 really enjoyed this great forward sortie today. Down they go, 10 yards away from St. George's line. Evans darts behind, but it's picked up here by Malone. The ball's ordered back once again. Plenty of power behind both packs. Malone picks this one out, plucks it out of the second row, gets his supports moving with a pass to Summers, who has the grabber kick, sends Johnny King down for the chase. King in his own touch and goal area, about to bring it out. Well, there's section of the crowd over there on the Paddington end, who stopped right to the finale of this great game. Provan has the ball in hand, but the referee, Bradley, goes across field to see what the touch judge has come in to report an incident. Provan, I should say, Raper has been brought up with the skipper Provan, but a penalty here to Western Suburb. Bray about to take this kick. It looks good too, as Bray puts it well downfield, right between the posts, and it's 2 all here at the Sydney Cricket Ground. St. George 2 and Western Suburbs 2. Great tackling by the players of either side at the moment. And Western Suburbs have possession. Probe away this time. It's Meany who gets his pass away to Russell. Russell gets it further afield, but Malone couldn't handle the ball. It goes into touch. The ball is rather slippery at the moment. Great cover defence by the forwards of St. George and Western Suburbs in this game, typical of the grand final between Wests and St. George, which have officiated over the years. This one has been one of the best encounters they've had over the many years in drizzling rain. This time the ball's caught by Lumsden, who's quickly put down by on the St. George 25 yards mark. This time in the role of ruck half is Ryan, I should say. Ryan gets his supports moving out across the field. The ball is knocked on there by McDonald, but a penalty has been given to St. George as the crowd stand up. They've really had their money's worth here. Another great run taking place as Johnny King sets sail for the line down towards the Randwick end and sticks it down, chased by Bray. A great try indeed by young King, as indicated by the referee Bradley.
Yes, Johnny King seems to be at home no matter what the conditions. Here he is, scampering away downfield to score yet another grand final try.
And now we see McDonald having the conversion, the try being scored, the runaway try by Johnny King. Well, you can see that the umbrellas are favoured today with the rain still pelting down at the Sydney Cricket Ground as McDonald puts his boot to this one and goes right between the posts. And the scores at the moment, St George 7 and Western Suburbs 2. Well, the crowd watch this scrum go down. Waiting now for Malone to fire the ball in, but the referee, Bradley, is not quite happy with the setting of that scrum and gives a penalty to St George. McDonald, number 15, once again with Lumsden behind him. Very cool kicker, takes his time. There goes the kick there by McDonald. Been flagged away, and Western Suburbs have possession here. Racing across field, still going downfield is Malone, who's quickly caught. And bundled down there, marked in the play the ball by Walsh, but it's speared back this time, picked up by Gary Russell, who gets his supportsman with a pass to Smythe. Smythe's caught by Wilson, played 15 yards away from the Magpies line. St George trying to get possession here as Cody clings to the ball and is quickly brought down, smartly put on the ground by Provan. From the play the ball once again, it's Meany sending Hayes running downfield off him, but Hayes is caught, quickly put on the ground. Playing the goal mouth there in the Magpies line in the all black with the white V. And this time, once again, it's Cody caught in possession. Marked by Walsh in the play the ball. Smythe in the ruck half position gets his supports with a pass going out this time to Gary Russell. Russell quickly put down. Marked in the play the ball here very smartly by Ryan. But West is shotting the ball around. Hayes making the break, veering out towards the hillside. Look at the cover defence of St George converging upon him. And once again, West have possession, hemmed in on their own line, with St George trying to keep him at bay. From the scrum that goes down, Western Suburbs get a penalty here. Bray taking this penalty kick for the Magpies. Not a great day for goal kicking with the slippery ball. That's Bray, number 30, with the referee Bradley right alongside of him. And Brady moves into this one. I should say Bray moves into this one. Looks mighty close, but it's cut off short and picked up smutty by Raper. Raper bidding away from his own try line. Is quickly brought down, very effectively too, by Smythe, but the ball's heeled back. It's gone to Walsh to Provan. Provan goes through, drops the ball, and West have possession. This time it's Cody caught from behind and brought down, marked by Monty Porter. But it's played back once again to Meany. Meany gets it away to Walsh. Walsh is quickly put down. Rugged play amongst the forwards. Walsh plays the ball back to Hayes, who gives a nice delivery here to Meany. Meany trying to cut through here, but once again the cover defence is there to bring him down. Meany is marking the play the ball by Walsh, with Arthur Summons given the signal here. Gets his pass away to Cody. Cody well and truly tackled. Cody quickly getting to his feet to play the ball back to Hayes, who gets his supportsman in the pass to Summons. Summons gets a further pass afield to Norden. Norden is tackled from behind and brought down. But he plays it back, and West now probe away at the St George line. Here's Kelly, number 12, making a bid for West. Serves it away this time. It's gone to Meany. Meany races the hands of Louis Wilson, is brought down. Meany plays it back to the ruck half in Walsh. Walsh gets it away this time. And West raid again, this time with Cody going downfield. Drops the ball behind him. It's picked up by Gary Russell, who gives it away this time. And cutting through nicely is Malone. Malone quickly brought down. But it's gone back to the hands of Summons. And now it's West Kelly making down field. Once again, Kelly is caught here. Great tackling by St George's forwards at the moment. But many good raids have taken place by Western, so failed to materialise because of the dynamic tackling by the St George forwards. Well, the crowd really are enjoying this football today. Here we see West in possession once again. Racing downfield is Diamond, who's caught by Lumsden. Diamond about to get to his feet. Plays it back once again, and West still have possession. Moving downfield this time is Smythe. Smythe, number 8, is caught. The players are much bespattered this time. With the heavy ground this time, we see Meany going downfield. Big, powerful Meany is hard to bring down, but eventually his progress has been stopped. Meany plays the ball back once again, and West have possession. There goes Kelly downfield, number 12. Hard man to bring down is Kelly, but he makes the ball do the job. And West still have possession. Play out towards the hillside with rain still tumbling down at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Well, the players are walking off now for the half-time break. The referee, Bradley, puts them down to scrum it up. Down they go. Waiting this time for Malone, number 23 in this half, working the scrum. But St George win this one, and it's travelling right across the three-quarter line, where Riley is caught. A section of the crowd of 41,184 staying till the finale of this match as Kevin Ryan is penalised here, and a penalty to Western Suburbs. Well, the Western Suburbs supporters no doubt call for that one, but it has been rugged football right from commencement. Western Suburbs today have proved worthy foes to the Premier St George. Here's Monty Porter making a bid, but once again the Western forwards move in to stop his progress, and the ball's gone right across field here, and eventually getting up to play the ball back this time. It's St George's Provan. Provan gives it away to Raper. Raper covered in the ooze from the Bulleye pitch soil area. Is brought down by Kelly, but the ball's played back this time to the hands of Ryan. Ryan going downfield is brought down in the slush from the Bulleye soil area. This time it's Walsh making the ball do the job with the pass going out amongst the three quarters. And a nice pass is picked up by Johnny King. King is grabbed here by Barsley and bundled into touch. And very shortly they'll scrum it up once again. Well, the crowd really enjoyed their game here today at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Ray Smythe, who's been a real Trojan today for Western Suburbs, is off the field of play seeking ambulance attention. Although the game has been rugged on many occasions, the quarter after given, and one would expect that today in a grand final with players playing for that coveted premiership. Well, it's a penalty to Western Suburbs. Bray, who started off with number 30 in the first half, sporting number 1, takes this penalty kick for Western Suburbs. The ball's in flight. There she goes. And it's going to be mighty close, and both flags are up. And a big crescendo of cheers from the crowd here. And the scores at the moment, St George 7 and Western Suburbs 4. From the scrum that breaks up once again, the ball's picked up at the base of the scrum by Evans. But the referee allows play to continue. Referee Bradley acquitted himself particularly well here in his first grand final, and believe me, as the years roll by, with the knowledge he's got this year, should become one of our top referees. We see Dennis Meany serving a pass back this time to Bray. Bray brutes downfield and opens up the chase here for the wingers. But St George's McDonald picks up and veers away, but Barsley was there to catch him, to bring him down. McDonald plays the ball back to King in the ruck half position. Out it goes in a flash this time. And St George have possession of the pass going out to Lumsden. Lumsden's dropped it. It's taken through on the toe here by Diamond number 5. Watch this one closely. But he dribbled it, but just couldn't get to it. And St George win the day there with Gazier up there with Riley. Well, that was a little disappointing, but that's football for you. Here's the action shot in slow motion, as you can see it slide away. And then Gazier putting his boot to it. They scrum it up. Play dangerously close to St George's line. And St George have possession. Going up the sideline this time is Elton Rasmussen, who's quickly brought down. Played dangerously close to the sideline. Grove in the role of ruck half. Gives the pass away here, and St George still have possession. Down the round 25 yards mark. Well, strange enough, the sun has come out with the referee sealing the sun from his eye, and also the touch judge over there on the hillside of the Sydney Cricket Ground. The crowd are cheering on their champions of Western Suburbs and St George, because it's been a mighty grand final here at the Sydney Cricket Ground, and the crowd of 41,184 have certainly seen football under the wet conditions at its very, very best. Here we see Evans working the scrum for St George with the Western Suburbs pack pushing particularly hard with the 5-man pack of St George down. Wilson not there with them. A penalty here to Western Suburbs. Well, the crowd, there's the girl there having her fingers crossed as Bray moves into this one, and the ball's in flight, and there she goes. And both flags are up. A magnificent effort indeed. And the crowd are cheering their champions behind there. Western St George supporters, no doubt, with the score St George 7 and Western Suburbs 6. It's mighty close at this game with West in possession. Malone being caught here. Malone quickly regains his feet, but once again is brought down by Rasmussen. The ball slipped away from him, but the referee has blown the whistle. Bradley today right up with the play. Anxious moments here for that supporter. Well, it was very rugged with the ambulance man coming in here from many, many occasions today. St George 7 and Western Suburbs 6, with Arthur Summons coming back in the field of play with mud oozing from his jumper, as is the case of the rest of the boys of St George and Western Suburbs. Malone 23 working the scrum, comes out of the tunnel from where it was placed. It's ordered back once again with mud clinging to the forwards of St George and Western Suburbs. They're standing up there particularly well under those conditions. And the crowd, too, have got wet today, but they've certainly stopped at the finale of this particular match with Gilbert McDougall going downfield, cut off by the cover defence of St George and quickly brought down. He's marked there by Proban. It's picked up by Gary Russell, who gets it away to Hayes. Hayes skirting the touchline. Well, there's not a great deal of time in this game. But Dennis Meany clears the ruck with a pass going across field, and Western Suburbs still have possession, but the cover defence of St George comes up there to cut off the Western Suburbs movement. And St George win this one from the ruck, and Provan serves up a nice pass. It goes out to Gasnier. Gasnier props, sidesteps, finds the ground very difficult to step upon this time. And Elton Rasmussen gets his supportsman, the pass to Johnny Raper, and the mud bespattered Raper is quickly brought down out towards the hillside of the Sydney Cricket Ground. Walsh clears the ruck this time with a pass going out to Kevin Ryan. Well, Kevin Ryan has the ball taken from him, and it's gone to Gary Russell, out to McDougall. Well, there was many slogans today round the sideline from St George supporters and also Western Sub. It was a carnival day at the Sydney Cricket Ground, and great presentation was brought to bear, and the crowd of 41,000 certainly enjoyed this football, with Arthur Summons making the break. Gives it to Barsley. Barsley's well and truly covered there and brought down the good tackle by Johnny King. Here we see Summons getting his supports moving. Another raid takes place with Diamond moving up towards the St George line. Players about 20 yards away from St George's line. And West with a do-or-die effort to try to crack the Premiers. But the Premiers are standing up for the task here with Walsh being brought down. Well, they're sectioning the crowd over on the hillside. They're stopping to see what's going to be the final outcome of this match, as Summons endeavouring to raid here for the Western Suburbs boys. They've been worthy foes of St George today. There's Provan marking Summons, and his last game of football has been a tower of strength to St George, bringing them on, calling them on, and sending them on to better efforts. So too has young Arthur Summons been the supreme role there, the same as I mentioned about Provan, tearing on and bringing his boys onto the picture and suiting them on every occasion. Well, down is play out towards the hillside, where Raper is caught in possession, plays the ball back once again, and St George are probing away with Walsh getting it this time from the ruck. Walsh goes downfield, and the durable Walsh is quickly brought down by Cody. From the play the ball here, it's gone to Ryan. Ryan hangs the ball, gives it away this time, and St George still have possession. Rasmussen brought down. On the run this time is King. King is brought down by Cody. And the score at the moment, St George 7, Western Suburbs 6. Little time left for play as they scrum it down. Well, they collapse in a heap. It's very hard to hang on those wet jerseys at the moment, as no doubt you can see. But the referee has given a penalty here. Offside play. No doubt young McDonald will come up and endeavour to take this penalty kick. Yes, McDonald taking this kick. Rather a heavy sodden ball. Right from the commencement. There goes the kick by McDonald. It's in the air. Looks mighty close, and both flags are up. And so the score is the most interesting stage now from the supporters of either side. St George 9 and Western Suburbs 6. Play now has swung down towards the St George line underneath the goalmouth area. And Western a do-or-die effort with the big crowd urging them on, 41,184. But a penalty here has been given to St George as McDonald takes the kick, and in doing so kicks for touch. Finds it too with a magnificent rangefinder. And that's it. He's all over, bar the shouting. St George today won their 7th consecutive premiership, and a pat on the back for Western Suburbs, who never stopped trying right from the end. It was a great match, and I feel sure the big crowd who turned out in full force braved the elements of the weather. And now we see the crowd, the boys I should say, moving over, shaking hands with one another.
What a side, and what a tremendous grand final, with yet another big one being decided by a Johnny King three-pointer. West had gone close in court. In 1963, the heavens really opened up on grand final day, and again it was St George versus West in the decider. On this day, a legend was born when lanky Norm Provan and stocky little Artie Summons cuddled in the mud after a monumental clash. This is one of the classic moments in rugby league.
Kick-off by St George is taken by George Evans, their scrum half. Waller waves to the timekeepers to start play, and there's Dennis Meany underneath the ball for Western Suburbs, and the rain beating down as the match starts. Jack Gibson inside there gets the ball outfield to Kelly, and Kelly is dragged along the ground by Kevin Ryan. Summons shoots the ball wide to Kevin Smythe. Smythe moves infield for Western Suburbs, and the crowd await the first electrifying movement of the match, but it doesn't come off as their giant forward, Kel O'Shea, coming back after injury, tries to force his way through the George forwards. Ball goes from Malone to Summons, outfield again, but again we see the strength of St George as they move up quickly. This time it's Rasmussen doing the tackling. The ground is in very treacherous condition with the heavy mud, as you can see already. Ian Walsh is covered on one side, and later on the players are completely covered in mud. Across field they go. A chance here who goes to Peter Diamond. He's smothered in a tackle by Lumsden and Pollard, and almost dragged over the sideline. Dougal, dummy half, gets the ball across to Hayes, and players forced by St George down to the West 25, although West have possession. A penalty against St George's forward Kevin Ryan being offside. The penalty kick by Parrish gets touched just over halfway, a couple of yards, and down goes the scrum. Malone tries to use Lawler there as a shield, but it doesn't come off. This time John Smythe again tries hard to get through the forwards, but Smythe is again tackled. Arthur Summons goes into dummy half. Ball going across the back line with Kelly making a barging run amongst the forwards. Kel O'Shea looks round for support as dummy half. They're handling the ball all right as Arthur Summons gets it. And now you can see the mud splashing up. Young Malone going in behind Summons, throws it wide out to Jack Gibson. The front row forward, Gibson is called upon by Lawler to play the ball. He does so, back it goes to O'Shea. Malone with hand, and O'Shea is thrown down, getting the ball to Meany. Meany gets a few yards out of it, and play is still inside the West area, just a few yards. Summons blind side, kick over the top, and Mowbray flying down the right wing. Catches King in possession of the ball. Now the scrum, no score as yet in the match, and it's won by St George again to Pollard. Out it goes to Gasnier. Gasnier almost lost the ball in the tackle and gets off the play. Down goes Evans, and the lead-up work for this try by Evans as he scored in the right corner towards the Sheridan end. There's Lawler, the referee, on the spot as he rules the try, and the lead-up work was done by Norm Provan. It's 3-0 as Gasnier tries to convert the try from touch. There's the kick by Gasnier. It fails, goes to the left, and the score is 3-0 in favour of St George, just on 70,000. We're holding the players apart there as he's calling for the 3-yard rule. Ryan senses an opening and goes very hard for the try line, but a great tackle by Parrish pulls him down. Ball is played back to Raper. Raper gives it out to Provan, who decides to try and barge over on his own, but he's forced back by the grim defence of Western Suburbs. Ball goes back to St George, out a long pass to Pollard. Pollard gives to Gasnier. Gasnier tries to get the ball to King. He does so too, and King is tackled. They're short of the West line now. An attacking position as they go across field. Raper shoots it wide again. Down the centre they're going. Pollard trying to force his way through the defence. St George will again tackle short of the line. Very scraggy play there, and it's a penalty here. It looks like Meany offside, right in front of the goalposts, and this will give a chance to St George to notch a goal. It's Gasnier that takes the kick, and as the flags are raised, St George now lead 5 points to 0. Hayes, dummy half, gets it on to Gibson. Gibson on to Meany, and already you can see the slowing up of the players in this heavy mud, which is very awkward conditions for both sides. 5-0 could win it. Back it goes to Malone, to Arthur Summons. He dummies to kick over the top and loses the ball in the tackle. Lawler rules the knock on as he regains it, and we'll see the scrum going down with applause from the supporters. Evans goes the open side, tries to force his way through. Smythe drives him infield, and O'Shea tackles from second row. Going across to the back line now. A good break here as it goes through. A beautiful pass into Gasnier. Look at him slicing the opposition as he goes down. And can he get the ball free? At the last moment, he throws a brilliant pass into Provan onto King, and King is tackled just a few yards short of the line. Great movement by St George. Ball goes back to Provan. Provan gets it across field. Looks like Western Suburbs are offside again, and this gives Gasnier another chance to put St George another 2 points on the board. All round the ground, we see the Western Suburbs and St George colours raised by their supporters, and it was certainly a day to remember. Gasnier's kick, it hits the back of the marker, and Gasnier quickly scoops up himself and tries to dash across, but the defence recovered very quickly and held him out. He plays the ball back. Out it goes quickly. Rasmussen's there. Tries to get across. Short of the line. trouble playing it. Ian Walsh out there shooting the ball out wide to Raper. Raper turns back infield to Gibson's tackle, who blocks his pass. Norm Provan got a chance of going across. He's across the line, but the ball is lost. And it's knocked out of touch and goal, and another scrum. Penalty against Evans. There's a kick by Don Parrish from right on touch. Plenty of distance, but you can see it faded to the left and caught by Langlands, who decides to run it out. Langlands runs up the centre, gains about 20 yards before being pulled down. Waiting for players to clear off him. Played back. Ball was loose by Porter there, but it's picked up. But West were too anxious to get possession back from St George and are penalised. Ball kick the touch, scrum to follow. There's a bad mull by Pollard. Standing a little bit too far away from the play itself in the breezy conditions. And there's enough time. With only 20 minutes to play left, St George lead 5 points to 0. There's a run by Summons, and he's kicked the ball through. A chance here as they go down the field. Look at King shepherding Langlands as he's dives in the mud for that ball. Langlands forced to play a ball. It's picked up. Oh, it's fumbled there, and they followed through. Kicked through by McDougall. McDougall scoops it up and dives over. It's a try. It's a try to Western Suburbs. Simple McDougall. And that now puts the game on the board at 5-3 in favour of St George. Vital kick to make it 5-all by Parrish from almost in front. Watch Parrish slip on his back. Down he goes. He lost his balance. The kick floated to the left, and the score remains 5-3 with Parrish losing a golden opportunity to make it 5-all. Crowd tense now as they wait the final 15 minutes of play. Meany throws the ball wide at the ruck. He tries to shot wide at the ruck, but he couldn't get to it, and St George threw it away wide. Again, St George desperately trying to get upfield. 5-3 could be enough from this stage, and his King, as he goes through this tackle, which is created great controversy as he goes down the side, and King will go over here, a tackle from behind, but he's dived over, and there's a sliding try to King, which puts St George in front 8 points to 3. Waller stands right on the mark where he crossed. Parrish questioning his decision, and we'll leave it to you whether King was held in those tackles or he slipped out of them without grounding the ball and being held. Here's the kick from touch. He fails to raise the flags, and the score remains 8-3 in favour of St George, with time running out for Western Suburbs. Gasnier is now on the wing position. Lumsden coming into the centre three-quarter. Lumsden nursing, Gasnier rather, nursing an injured back. Going across the centre of the field, we see St George right in the heavy work there, sorting themselves out. And Lawler puts the scrum down right in the centre. Pretty hard to hold on here. And down go the forwards. They clash. They're not properly organised. Lawler blows the whistle, brings them back to the original spot. A little bit of rough stuff going on in there. Kevin Ryan being pulled out, and Norm Provan being called over to lecture his side from some heavy play. There's the ball down field again. Western Suburbs, well, the penalty comes now, continually going for the up and under to try and upset the St George Bulls. St George endeavouring for their 8th premiership in a row, have a lead of 8-3, and time is running out with Raper playing a brilliant game, going down the right side of play. It's almost lost here, it goes over their heads, but St George recover, a man there all the time, going across in front of their own goal post, only about 20 yards out. Ball is played back. Conditions at this stage almost impossible, and his West being penalised for kicking in the ruck. There's a kick by Rasmussen, fails to get there, and Parrish catches the ball brilliantly just on the halfway line and goes across the centre of the mud. Great tackle, pulls him down, but his pass goes to McGuinness. McGuinness is forced into the tackle just over halfway inside the West area, and a loose pass comes across, but Parrish continually up there now. He's trying to get his team out of trouble. There's some heavy work by O'Shea, but he loses the ball. And we'll see who gets up with it. It must be Western Suburbs. We can't distinguish the players at this stage. There's Gasnier for Lumpton back on the right wing, forcing the play in field. George's ball. Goes across from Munster forward. He's determined now to sit tight and play a cut with Munster forward. The ball holding up the play to put a scrum down. It looks like the ambusman was called in, which was happening continually throughout the match, with a bucket of water to clear the players' eyes. There's the ball in the scrum. Ball not happy with it. Orders the ball to go in again. Bit of a scramble. It's allowed to stay with Western Suburbs. There it goes, the up and under again. Underneath the ball though, and Western Suburbs having a lot of trouble to get possession at this stage. There we saw Gasnier just about to take the pass, but Captain Provan, realising he was injured, cut him out, and the ball went across field to Porter. Long pass goes from Evans. Evans down to Raper. Raper goes down the blind side of play, trying to force his way through. And the score is now 8-3, with only about 7 minutes left in the play. And there's another pitch with a huge crowd. Just on the 70,000. Goes down the right side of play. Gasnier gives a good pass across. A good pass infield to Lumsden. Lumsden puts it on the carpet. The ball slips away from him and it's possession to Western Suburbs. And Parrish tries to run his way out. A good fend, sees an opening, but it's caught from behind. There's a kick downfield again. And the ball just goes over the sideline on the full, and play will be recalled. There's a bit of heavy work by O'Shea as he shouldered the player off, but Lumsden dropped on the ball to save. Western Suburbs still desperately trying for possession in the closing minutes, are doing anything at all to create a penalty, but Lawler's taking no notice and allows possession to be made with St George. Long pass goes across the field. Ian Walsh and Porter playing a great game as Walsh slipping up behind to take dummy half position. The ball goes through his legs, and it's again Raper that ducks under a couple of tackles and gets about 15 to 20 yards out from St George's line. Provan, blindsided play, goes down the field. Look at the scramble, and Western Suburbs at last get possession. There's Summons getting the ball away, but again, the loose conditions not favouring the handling at all, and Lawler is forced to put a scrum down when both sides are in. Ragged old scrum. Lawler sick and tired of putting them down, allows play to go on, and St George gets possession. Pollard steps in field. Score still 8-3 with only minutes left in the game. Here we see Western Suburbs in a dying effort, a short kick. Over the top it goes, they're running back forward. The Horde almost beat them then as it went back, but it was no try. And the ball goes back to Parrish. Parrish a long pass on the left wing there. Peter Diamond, and Diamond is knocked flat. He plays the ball back. Meany, across it goes. Summons straightens up down the centre, looks for support, decides it's foolish to pass, and goes down with the play. There's Raper signalling, trying to cover every possible position, and just look at that. Shocking conditions. It's won by West, and down they go in a dying effort to win the match, and a beautiful in pass, but it's put on the ground. Impossible to hold, and there's the end of the game from that knock on, with the players shaking hands, some swapping jerseys, and Darcy Lawler leaves the ground. And there's some of the players coming up. Look at Norm Provan, just completely covered in mud, being chaired to the sideline by his teammates, being their captain coach, and winning the 8th premiership for St George. It's certainly been a grand one, and will be a record that'll be hard to beat for many, many years to come. There's Gasnier just pulling on a jersey and wincing in pain as he protected his back. In the absence of Bill Buckley, Arnold Steer, the Deputy Chairman of the Rugby League, presents the trophy to Norm Provan, that giant front row forward who's done yeoman service to the game. And there are the players running around the ground. You see they're all St George players, although some have swapped jerseys with West One on. They're going right around in a huge crowd of 70,000 stayed right to the finish to see this team run around with a coveted trophy and 8th premiership.
So St George make it 3 in a row against West, 8-4, with that man Johnny King again crossing for a grand final try. The 4th year in succession he'd achieved that honour. St George versus West, an era to remember and indeed one of the great moments in rugby league.